Okay, since we are talking about storytelling, so this time around the workshop is a little bit special because we learn storytelling in Toastmasters. It's a very important skill. If you look at the world speech contest, if you look at amazing speech, your story, everybody is telling story. That's why I thought like, why don't we have a topic that will be interesting to everybody, which is applying storytelling techniques and skills in at workplace. So I hope that after this workshop, or you will be inspired or motivated, or at least get some ideas on how you can share your story in your very own workplace or your position in your company. All right. So before we dive into the workplace elements, so why don't we have a little short discussion on why story is powerful? We need to know the big why, right? Simon Sinek say we need to know the why, know how, then we talk about what. So this will be the rough structure of today's workshop as well. So can you type in the chat why you think stories are uniquely powerful? Can you type in the chat in your own opinion? Share with me what comes to your mind when you think of story. Why are they powerful? And why Toastmaster put so much emphasis or focus on storytelling? And why all of us are in Toastmasters to learn storytelling techniques. Okay, storytellers seem more relatable. Yes, relatable. So Jackson, hello. Easier to relate, human nature. Love to listen to story. Yes, I love to listen to story. Kaudiam, logical flow of information in story. All right. Thomas, hello. Good morning. Kaudiam, good morning as well. So journey of transformation. So when we tell story, we can tell the details and emotions involved in the journey of transformation to inspire, motivate, and give people, some lesson learned along the journey as well. Suma, stories engages people more. Engaging, yes. Emotion, it gets people to listen. RB, thanks. Deepa, they can engage audience well. Of course, story has to be interesting. Yes, meaningful story. So later on, we'll touch on some fundamentals of stories that we need to know before we tell a story. Veron, unique and engaging. So that's definitely one of the strongest and biggest benefits of telling story. So paint more interesting picture, right? Visualize, right? People can visualize how the ideas that we can understand better. Okay, stories provide context, okay, which is important for people to understand and dive into the story or the message you want to deliver. Okay, analogy, Maria, not just dry bullets, not just dry facts, right? It's boring. And Chini, story connects emotionally. Thank you so much for your active participation. That is exactly what the trainer wants and hopes. Thank you so much for the energy. And today I'm going to give all my best to you as well so that we can learn together. Okay, so why stories are uniquely powerful? And I love to give this analogy to everyone. Why story is powerful? This is a very typical example of why story is powerful. Can you tell from this picture, what does it mean? What is the person doing or telling the girl? What's this picture telling you? Can you make a quick guess what action or activity they're engaging in the moment? Or telling something sensational, okay. So in fact, yes, Thomas, you got the right answer, and Jingwen as well. Gossip. Do you realize that at a workplace, where is the best place to network and connect with everybody? It's pantry, right? Pantry is where we tell story. Pantry, your water cooler, exactly. Inside pantry. So that's where we sip a coffee and listen to some stories about your colleagues. Listen to stories about your bosses or even your clients. So people share freely and enjoy the moment of chit-chatting in the pantry or next to the water cooler. Most of the time, it's more or less gossip, right? Gossiping is bad, I would say, it's not good. But it's in fact an amazing thing that people is doing. And I personally experienced this power of gossip as well. So when we listen to gossip of a colleague and how the boss treated him or her, then from there we empathize and we listen to story and how the relationship between the person and the boss and all these stories are what connects us together in a company. So that pantry, it's definitely a must if you're a boss, you're a manager, right? You need a pantry because people talk to each other and chit chat. Of course, I'm not encouraging you to gossip, but gossip is definitely a powerful tool. It's a testimony of why story is powerful. So imagine if I'm going to gossip about Louis, right? No, about Garen. If I say, oh, Garen is womanizing, he has two girlfriends. No, interesting, but no, boring. But if I add in some storytelling element, hey, I tell you, I saw Garen in Jurong East holding a girl with long hair. The girl's pretty and I think is Asian. And they look happy together, love birds. But I tell you what, the next morning, I saw Garen again in Pasir Ris. And this time round, he's holding a girl with short hair. And it's definitely not Asian. Garen is a womanizer. Terrible person. So you see, if I add in some elements of storytelling, the whole gossip thing becomes so interesting, even more interesting, right? Not only about Garen is a womanizer, of course not. And the little details and context of it and bring people in. That's the power of story. Of course, there are many reasons. So I'm going to list it down now. So why story is powerful and why all of us need to tell story. Firstly, arouse. So rouse means like what you have mentioned earlier on. Engage, right? Engage people to get people interest. So nowadays we are very used to playing phones, right? We are very easily distracted. So in this world, we are all easily distracted. And if you imagine you are listening to a colleague standing in front of you, presenting facts and figures in a very boring way, you tune out, you zone out and start playing your phone. So phone definitely is our best friend and is a strong distractor. Okay, but on the other hand, if you can tell story rouse, story speaks to the emotional mind. So we've talked about emotion just now, right? So this will make things interesting and we will lower down the barrier and listen to the presenter more. We will not easily get distracted because of story. So this is one of the key powers of telling story. So next time that's why in Toastmasters, we kind of indirectly discourage people to just list down the facts and present in a boring way, a boring speech, right? We always encourage, as an evaluator, encourage people to tell story. So they ask questions to engage the audience, to rouse them, to get interest, so that people will pay attention. So ultimately, attention is an expensive commodity that as a speaker, we want to gain from the audience. So there's one point, rouse. The next thing is resonate. So when we tell story, especially those more emotional one, like sad story about depression, about loss of family members, when we listen to them, the story engages our emotions. It triggers our emotions in our mind, in our heart as well. That's why there's a time that we can actually understand the person. We put attention, we give person attention and empathize and sympathize with the person. So that's when the story can be powerful in a way of resonating with the listener. So as a storyteller, as a presenter, emotions that we are presenting or we are projecting through our story can actually resonate with the audience. And when audience listen to it, they can follow the emotion that we are presenting, like a roller coaster. You are bringing them up to be excited, then they'll feel excitement and feel happy for the presenter. If we want to bring them down to the emotional roller coaster. We want to make them feel sadness, depressed, upset. We bring them with our words, with our story, with our background, with our context. So that's the power of story. You can bring people up and down emotionally, depending on your story and where you want to drive them to. So this is power of story. through facts and tell, listing down events, you may not be able to resonate because without story, it's hard. It's possible, but it's hard to resonate with you as a speaker. All right, second point, resonate. And lastly, remember. Okay, so if one person come to you and tell you all the facts about a product or facts about an event, you may remember a little bit unless it's wow, it's like, astonishing, then you remember. If the person comes to you, connects all the dots and tell you a story about the personal experience, about the customer's experience, you may remember more. Because we design to listen to story, we design to tell story, we design to listen and absorb story. That's why our ancestors, they always gather around the fire, listen to the older people to share their wisdom through stories. Sitting down, listening to stories, absorb the lesson learned and morals behind the story, and we remember. That's why since young in kids enjoy watching cartoons, watching Disney stories. That's why because the stories are interesting. And until now, we can still remember Cinderella, we can remember Lion King, can remember a lot of Disney show and drama. As well as as an adult, we enjoy watching love stories. We enjoy watching drama, TV series, as well as movies, right? Because the stories can help us to remember the things happening inside the story better. Okay, so as a speaker, if we can tell story, the listener can remember us better and stronger. That I believe all of you can agree with this. So when you listen to those heart-touching and heartwarming story, you remember what you feel. All right, so this is a famous saying that people don't remember what you do, what you say, but they remember what you make them feel. So this is very important because story is all about emotion. Okay, that's why story is powerful because it can rouse, it can resonate, and it can also help the audience to remember your content and your story. All right, so these are the three powers, and believe all of us can agree with this and understand about this as a Toastmaster. All right, but there are three common mistakes I really quickly run through about this. So three common mistakes when we come to telling story, especially in speeches in Toastmaster. When you listen to some stories, some are powerful and effective. Some story can be boring and not interesting to listen to because there are many mistakes or there are some techniques that the speaker hasn't applied in their speech. Okay, the number one common mistake I always see storyteller is committing is listing events. So we know story is a series of events, right? So what something happened yesterday, what something happened today, or something happened an hour ago, then something happened next hour. So there are many things happening in one story. So the speaker or the presenter may just, they just list down the events that's happening. So when just listing down, emotionless, it can be some like a point form of facts. You're just telling me facts. It's not interesting. So that is number one common mistake that I see, storyteller is committing, listing down events. And because they don't really know a structure or they don't apply certain the right techniques in their speech or their story, another common mistake is they're listing too much details. So when you look at the speaker exceed 7.5 minutes, it's just because they have too much to share, too much details. But do you agree that sometimes the details may not be necessary? Some points are additional because you feel like telling it. That's why you put it in. But in fact, it's not relevant to the message. It's not relevant to the goal. And you can take it out. Take all these unnecessary details out. So the second common mistake is people tend to list down too much details that are not necessary. So this is also some reminders for all of us as storytellers we want to avoid. And lastly, because listing down events, because there are too much details, then we touch and go. So touch and go meaning to say we just touch on the thing, touch on the event, touch on some details, and we move forward. And what's the risk behind it? We forgot to tell our emotion. Remember, story is all about emotion. It's about how we resonate with the audience. through emotional bridge. We build a bridge with the audience by telling stories and connect them, engage them emotionally. So when we touch and go on the events, listing down all this thing, one of the detrimental effects or the weakness of our story is too surface, superficial. We don't really touch on it. We touch and go. It's not in depth. People don't feel it. Maybe people kind of go almost feel you, but you already touch and go. You move forward already. So this help lose the connection and people not just lost their interest or attention. So these are the three common mistakes. So later on, I will touch on the fundamentals of a story. Okay, so with this, we have covered the basics of storytelling. So we touched on why we want to tell story, and we have some common mistakes that I've seen in Toastmasters speeches. And next point is we want to go into the today's topic, which is storytelling at workplace. Okay, so can you type in the chat and share with me where you imagine people can use storytelling at their workplace or in their position? Can you type in the chat and share with me some ideas you have in mind? So storytelling is powerful. Yes, we all know it. So how can we and where, which area that we can apply? Sales pitch. Yes, Thomas. I believe you always share a lot of tips on presentation, how to engage people, and wonderfully. I love your presentation slide. Thanks for sharing with all of us as well. France, motivate team. Yes, leadership. So remember, Toastmaster is all about where leaders are made. So communication, presentation, storytelling helps motivate team members. Anyone else can think of this? Propose an idea. Yes, exactly. So when we propose idea, we don't just list down some facts and justify the reason, right? Why not we try different perspective and different way, which is to tell story, to propose an idea that can be more effective, and the management or your bosses can listen to you more attentively, right? And adapt whatever idea you're proposing. Thanks, Maria. Anything else? Data storytelling. Wow. Chini, this is definitely a very valuable technique. If you're a data analyst, you definitely want to learn how to tell a story about your data. Data is boring, just numbers, figures. It can be boring. But imagine if you can learn, apply storytelling techniques that you have learned in Toastmaster or learned somewhere else into telling meaningful analysis or story behind the data. That is a very powerful skill or technique that we want to apply, right? Okay, RB, convince your team. Yes, leadership, members, and or business stakeholders. Yep. Incident storytelling. Okay, so talking about incident can be quite wide range, right? About safety, can be operation. Okay, Sharon, to communicate difficult, complex idea and change. Yes, in a different way. Team building, Leslie. Yes, how to build a team together through storytelling to inspire and to motivate people. Advertising, yes, it's often through good story. Khadiam, technical skill, yes, to go up, to stand out. So this is stand out. As a storyteller, you can stand out. That's definitely what I would agree. So if you look at those high flyers, they can tell good stories. They are natural storyteller. They don't just tell you the things in their mind. They structure and tell you a good story. Then when you can relate and bosses can pay attention and take note of this person, wow, there's the chances for him or her to get promotion are higher, right? That's natural. Okay, so let me summarize some areas that we can apply. Firstly, sales, right? There are many programs, there are many sharing and articles online that tell you that storytelling is powerful in terms of sales. I had a sales manager in my previous job. So this sales manager, he studied in ITE, he's technical background in the technical sales in water treatment industry. You know, water treatment industry talks a lot about technicality. So technical aspect or technical know-how is a very powerful tool, and it's a must for people to trust in the solution and trust in the company to engage their services, right? So this particular sales manager is amazing. because every time he meets new clients or his old clients, he always tells story. So he is a natural storyteller, and he knows exactly storytelling is a powerful tool to engage and convince the customers. So imagine when we look at a solution, a problem customer is facing. So what story does he tell? He tells testimonials of success story from the other clients. So you will talk, oh, I've applied this thing. My another client also facing this problem. Then so the problem is severe and costing a lot of money to the company. And ultimately, I got to notice this opportunity and went in and introduced this particular solution that can help them to reduce their maintenance costs and solve their problem. And ultimately, the customer was very happy and they are still using our products till today. So through this storytelling thing, as a customer, we will lower down our guard. We will listen, right? This is another powerful thing about storytelling. We lower down our defensiveness, our defense and guard, and we listen. So we listen, the chances for us to adapt and absorb that particular information are higher. Chances for us to absorb that particular information are higher. So that is the powerful thing about storytelling. And especially a salesperson, if you're a better storyteller, you win, right? You simply win. So when you go to your customers, when you do presentation, you don't talk about what you are offering. You talk about the why you are here to help customers, what values you're adding to them. Let them see the value, right? As a salesperson, you want to make your audience or your listeners or clients see the values you are adding in. All right. So don't forget about can be a problem solution a storyline. You want to tell some success stories or some testimonials from another client to convince and give assurance to the listener or the clients to use the product. Right. So sales, as a salesperson, storytelling is very important. Okay. Not only sales, we look at marketing as well. Okay, see how many there are many amazing marketing out there, a marketing strategy out there. Like a typical way is using slogan. For example, Nike, let's do it. Or like Body Shop, they're telling stories about how they are not using animal testing. Right? Animal testing is cruel to animals. That's why they are not using animal testing in all their products. So that's where Body Shop stands up in terms of animal friendly, and in terms of being human and having love, right? So that's why their products, and when they marketing team telling all this story, then as a consumers, we will accept and we will gladly purchase their product because we believe in their belief or they believe in their direction. So my friends working in Magnum, Magnum is all about it's ice cream, right? And when we eat ice cream, it is yummy, it's sweet, it's sugar, we are happy. But they turn it another round, they call seeking pleasure. No, seeking pleasure. So they tell story about, when you are eating Magnum ice cream, not only you're testing the sweetness of the ice cream, you are actually enjoying the pleasure that ice cream is bring to you, or Magnum is bringing to you. So as a pleasure seeker, what you want to look for is you want to look for Magnum ice cream. Right? So there are many different ways. There are some examples. Those are just examples of how marketing team can tell a story to you. All right. So there are many more. Okay. Next one, leadership. As we mentioned earlier on, so as a leader, we're going to tell story from time to time. So sometimes a meeting, okay, of course, a lot of serious matters to discuss and there are problems to solve. But if a leader can take an opportunity to share a relevant story to help to lead the team towards a certain direction, or to want to inspire them to do certain things. So this is where the leader can fully utilize the power of story to inspire the people. So in Toastmaster, we learn a lot about persuasive speaking, motivational speech, inspirational speech. And if you recall, all those world champions, they are talking about inspiring stories. Okay, why not? As a leader, as a manager, as a boss, as a management team, why don't you take opportunity from time to time to practice your storytelling in the workplace? Why not tell some story that you personally has experienced? What kind of difficulties and obstacles you have overcome, and what kind of values that you want your employees or your listeners to absorb and adapt into what they are doing now. For example, maybe due to COVID situation last year, the performance of a company was terrible, and the morale of your employees are down. Then your team kind of not interested in the work and they are looking out for other opportunities. Why not take this opportunity to have a town hall meeting, so to inspire them with your personal experience? You can talk about how you, as a person, how you overcome the obstacles back then, many years ago, or a while ago, and what kind of spirit or what kind of attitude you have used to overcome it. Don't list down the events like what I've done. Of course, you tell stories. You tell your emotion. What kind of feeling you had? Like you feel beaten. You feel down. You feel upset. You feel frustrated because of the situation. But however, what did you do to turn the situation around? And ultimately, you achieve something. You achieve a better result at the end of the day. It can be a hero story. It can be a mentor story. You want to lead them, guide them towards a more positive thinking, right? So as a leader, it's very important for us in the company to adapt the storytelling to inspire and motivate people. All right. Next one, vision and mission, same thing, right? You can tell we have every company is supposed to have vision and mission, so that we know the big why of the company, and we want the employees to know clearly what vision and mission the company has, and everybody can work together towards that particular goal or the same goal together. So as a leader, as HR, you want to tell story and how company is founded and how the founders and the whole management team sees that company is growing towards certain direction, right? Instead of just list down, when we come in, we get a handbook, we talk, our mission is this, our vision is this. Why not take an opportunity to tell story as a HR personnel or a manager? Tell story in details and let them feel exactly why the company has this vision and has this mission. Okay, I believe all of us can do this. So just intentionally using this technique at our workplace is important. All right, don't miss that out. Okay, training. So maybe you are a technical expert or you are a product manager. You want to give some training to your team members. Don't forget to inject a lot of stories. It can be some success story that your trainees or success story of the company to give assurance, to give confidence to your employees. Or you can do some operational training as well, so that people can understand the flow of how to operate a certain equipment or particular machines, right? So this training, you can also inject some storytelling elements in it. All right. There are many times tell us training is a one-way thing. So we just tell facts, text step by step. It may sound boring, right? So why don't you, rouse your audience a little bit, inject some interesting, get some humor, get some story, your personal story or some stories of another colleague, let them feel excited and interested in the training materials. So this is also one area that we can use storytelling in. Next one, operation. You can be an operational manager. You can be a plant manager. There are many things that you want to tell your operators, your engineers, your employees, or you are working in bank. You want to make sure your employees, they know the system, how to operate the financial system, investment system, or the machine or running engine behind your business, right? So you want to tell some stories about operation, let them bring them in, how they can operate and how they can work together as well, right? So operation is also one of the area that we can use storytelling. Okay, project. For example, you propose an idea. You want some, you want to change. You want to have a new change or improvement to your company, to certain process, right? You want to propose an idea. So this I categorize as a project where you want to use storytelling to propose an idea. So some of you have mentioned about this. Instead of just telling, the benefits of a project, why don't you bring your audience or bring your management team through a process or a journey. How an employee feel and how can we change it, and how this value, how this project or this idea can bring value and improve the situation that you are facing at the moment, right? Instead of just telling benefits, you bring them through a journey. So this will definitely capture more attention from your management. Maybe the chances of getting approval may be higher, right? So last point I can think of is fundraising. So some fund manager, or you are just a startup, you are entrepreneur, you need some funding, you need some investment. So this is also very many successful entrepreneur, successful startup founders, they are good storytellers. They don't just tell you, I've come up with this amazing technology, buy, invest, you will get a lot of money. No, they don't do this, right? They tell the big why. They tell the big why behind every discovery, every solution, every system that they have come up with. Why, what kind of problems they're solving, and why that particular technology they've come up with can solve this big issue, right? So that's why they can successfully gather a lot of funds, they gather a lot of investment because of their storytelling skills. All those benefits of storytelling they apply in their fundraising, or they apply in their investment raising thing, right? So like Airbnb, they tell a story. They tell a story how the founders just used a mattress. They came to New York, I think New York, a new city, and they find it, oh, lodging is difficult and hotels are fully booked and hotels are expensive. Then I think of, hey, why don't I put up mattress, a bed in the living room, and I start renting out and give them a breakfast. That's why they call Airbnb, bed and breakfast, right? So this simple idea of renting out a space in a room, that's how they get started, right? So when we listen to this story, or we understand the thought process or thinking process of that founder, then as an investor, I can relate more and I can see the value behind it and the problems they're solving. So you see that how effective a storytelling can be in helping you to raise fund or help you to get capital as well as investment. Okay, so these are some areas that I can think of we can apply at workplace. Of course, there are many more. There are many more interesting job roles as well as business out there for us to apply storytelling. So this few, I just give you some ideas. That's why you can get from here some inspiration, and in your personal job scope or personal role in a company, how can you tell story? Okay. All right. So now I'm going to move on to 5 fundamentals of storytelling. Okay. Similarly to Toastmaster speeches, when we tell story, we need 2 things. One is interesting story. You need a structure. Secondly is you need a message. In every speech, be it story with story or without story, a message is crucial and is number 1 priority. You need to finalize and crystallize and clarity in your message. Okay, so when it comes to storytelling at workplace, we also need to know clearly what are the objectives and what are the call to actions, as well as what are the messages you want to deliver. Okay, so you cannot randomly just tell story for the sake of telling story. It will be not effective and it's a waste of time. And people will get confused by you. It's not relatable, it's not rousing, it's not interesting, right? So firstly, we need to identify what are the objectives and messages. That's why at least now there are several areas that we can apply storytelling in the previous slide. For example, now you are a salesperson, you go to a client, your objective is to introduce your technology or introduce your solution, right? That's your objective. Or your objective is to close a sales, right? Definitely want to put your ideas or your solution to be the best solution in your customer's mind. And that is your objective. So when you tell story, you want to design your story to lead your listeners to achieve your objective. Okay, So when you are in training, your objective is to make sure all of them understand and you want to add value to your listeners. So you want to structure your stories, you want to structure your content to go to that particular objective, right? So that is very important for us to have a clear, have an end, have the end in mind, right? So that's why we can know how exactly we want to go forward and what we want to achieve by telling that particular story. Okay, so I cannot emphasize more how important a message in a story and what objective you want to achieve behind every story you are telling. Don't just simply tell people you brushed your teeth this morning, had your breakfast, then you went for jogging, then now you come back to attend Toastmaster meeting. What's the point of telling this story, right? So there's no meaning behind it. So we need to tell a meaningful story and relevant, right? Relevant story. Okay, so that's the number one fundamental of a story, a powerful story. Second thing is emotions. Why we don't want to list down points and events, instead of we want to tell story? Because of the element of emotions. Okay, we know, as we all of you have shared, telling story is to engage emotionally. If you don't tell your emotions when you tell your story, there's no emotion, then how can the audience feel you, right? I cannot feel you because I don't know what emotion you are telling. That's why when you design or when you craft your speech or craft your story, you want to weave in some emotions. You want to tell exactly what kind of emotion you were experiencing or the person was experiencing. Okay, so with this, you bring people in emotionally. Okay, you trigger some thoughts, you trigger some emotions and feeling in the listeners. Then the listener can understand better, understand more, and go with you with the flow, right? So there's something that sometimes, as a one of the mistake I noticed, people just list down, go through the events, connecting the dots, but they don't tell emotions. Okay, for example, now you are proposing an idea or want to solve a problem in a company. You want to tell a story about the journey of that particular person, what kind of emotion, what kind of obstacles and challenges that person is facing. Don't just tell, okay, the person is suffering or whatever, but you want to tell the emotion of that person, right? How does he or she feel? Okay, so with this, we want to punch, it's like a punch line, punch harder, punch the emotion into the listener. So when the managers or when the management team listen to it, they can empathize, they can feel it, right? Then they may approve or they may buy in the ideas of the improvement or ideas that you are proposing. Okay, when you tell story, remember to tell your emotions. Don't just list down the events, touch and go. All right, emotions are critical, are important. Okay, you must always remember to remind yourself to tell story, be it at workplace, be it at speech in your Toastmasters speeches. Just remember to tell emotions. Okay, the third thing is know your audience. You have to know your audience because there are many objectives that we can achieve through storytelling, but you need to know your objective and you need to know who are you speaking to. If you're speaking to a non-technical person, for example, now you are an engineer, you came up with a technical solution, complex, complicated, right? And this is a revolutionary technology that you want to introduce to the world. And you are talking to Shark Tanks, right? The investors in front of you. You're not going to you're not going to use all the jargons, right? You're not going to use all the technical terms in your complicated technology or solution. That's not effective. People may not understand what you're talking about, right? And as a person, as an effective communicator, most importantly, the person understand you and you understand the person. So that is how effective communication happens. So when you know your audience, they are not technical person, why don't you use analogy? Why don't you use simpler words or simpler version of your complex solution or complex technology? You lower down the technical aspect of, not to say lower down aspect, but in presentation, you want to make it understandable to those non-technical person, right? That's why it's important to know your audience. If the investors are not technology, as it's not from the same background as you, they may not understand, right? On the other hand, if you're talking to people, talking to engineers that know your technology or have some background of it, then when you say all your jargons, when you all the technical terms, they'll feel more convinced because they know, oh, this person knows what he or she is doing, right? So you can see, when we tell story, if we know the audience can understand certain things, we can go there. If we think the audience cannot understand certain thing, we try to have a workaround about that, right? Don't go straight to certain things that people don't understand. Most importantly, we want to make the person in front of us understand what we are talking about. So it's important to know our audience, right? For example, like politicians in US, they will always, change their contents and their ideas depends on the state they are speaking to. Of course, this is, know your audience. You adapt accordingly and you tell story customized to your audience. Okay, so there is the third fundamental. And the fourth, this is also very important. Bring listeners in. We don't just tell story with emotions, with all those, we know our audience, we talk about what we hit all the checkpoints of a story, a good story, an effective story. But sometimes it will be even more powerful if we can bring the listeners in. So how can we achieve that? It's just a simple twist of words. For example, instead of just telling all the facts and stories that you are telling, why don't you use imagine you in that particular position, in that struggle, in that time, at that moment of time you lose your job. Then you may think about your family. How can you feed your family? How can you sustain your lifestyle? How can you move forward? How can you face your friends and the stress and pressure they're putting in front of you when you lose your job? Right? So the word imagine, to bring people in, to help them imagine the situation and the struggles that you are describing. Okay? So instead of using I all the time, it's more one direction, it's about me. No, it's all we want to bring the audience in. We can be imagine you, right? You use the word you, then they will start thinking, oh, okay, if I am in that situation, how would I feel? How would I react? What would I do? Right? Maybe they can understand easier. They can relate better. Okay, this a bit of a twist in your story can also be very effective. Okay, so instead of I, use more you, or sometimes you can use we. We want to include the listeners, right? If you are your listeners are your colleagues. You guys are in the same company. So when we encourage them, we want to use we, right? We is inclusive and as the teamwork element in it. So we are in the same team. We want to work things out together. We want to put efforts together. So it's a we, right? Okay, so this is important. Bring listeners in to your story. Okay, lastly, structure. So we know there are many structures in storytelling world that we can use and apply. So of course, in workplace, the storytelling in workplace, we also need a structure to help us construct and script down our story so that we know what kind of emotions you want to tell, what kind of direction you want to lead the person to, or what kind of objectives you want to achieve. So with story in place, can help you to put things in place so that you exactly can bring them to the goal and objective you want to achieve. All right, like structure in impromptu speaking, we have structure. In prepared speech, we have structure. In story, we definitely have structure as well. So today, let me share with you three main structures. I hope it's not too overwhelming. Okay, three main structures that we are going to introduce you today. So the first is a typical storytelling timeline or storyline called Gustav Freytag's pyramid. It's a good stuff. Okay, Gustav. Okay, Gustav, this pyramid is applied in a lot of dramas, in a lot of fairy tales, a lot of stories that we have been listening or reading. Okay, it starts with exposition, setting a background, setting, and characters. So what are the context? What are characters? Who are the main cast? Who are the protagonists and antagonists, right? So all this thing, we want to have a background of it. So later on, there's an inciting incident, the first conflict in the plot. Something happened, right? Happy, happy, happy. Suddenly, oh, there is a big issue happening, right? So that's when you turn the story. So you go upward, right? It's a rising action, events leading to climax. Okay? So later on, climax happen. What's the turning point? So problems happen, and then there's a solution, or there's something has changed. Something the character has done something differently to change it. So after climax, there are a lot of following action, which is unraveling conflicts. So how you resolve the conflicts? So what are the things you have done? What are the things the character is performing? What kind of helps the person is getting? Then we reach resolution, conflict resolve. Maybe the hero wins, right? The hero defeated the enemy. Okay, resolution. And last word is denouement. Okay, the outcome of it. So ultimately, what happened to the characters and what happened to the whole story or the whole village the story is about. Okay, so this is a typical novel writer or drama writer or script writer. They may use this kind of storyline. So let me fill you in with some example. For example, Lion King. So Lion King, a Disney famous show, Lion King. So exposition is born of Simba. You know, the background of, I think, South Africa, the family, the friends around Simba, right? Then later on, oh, the death of Simba's dad, right? The father has died. Okay, that's when the happy background or happy story had a first twist and turn. Then Simba escaped. Then enemy tortures the family, right? Take over the kingdom, and all these are leading to the climax. And at the end, oh, Simba was reminded of the root, right? Remember what the teaching of the father, and he decided to do something to resolve the conflict, which is going back to home to fight the enemy, right? Ultimately defeated the enemy, then he became the king, and the peaceful kingdom come back and become the leader of the pack. So you can see this is how the pyramid is forming. Okay, simple, straightforward. All of us watching Korean drama, all those interesting drama, you see the timeline and you see this line, most of them are using this kind of storyline. Okay, so for example, now we are going to propose something new to the management. We want to use it in project. How can we do it? Well, firstly, we want to put a context of it. So maybe company is lacking of cohesion. So everyone is not, sticking well together as a team. Then as a storyteller, you want to tell story, right? You don't just say, oh, there are conflicts between employees. No, you say, oh, Jaden and Eugene. Oh, this Jaden and Eugene, they had conflict over a very small minor thing, which is how they manage their clients together. Even though they're holding different position, but they have different ideas of handling it. And because they are not close to one another, because they do not understand one another, job scope or personality, that's why they had a fight. And not only that, the company has low morale, unhappy employees. And that's why we, as a company, we have high turnover rate. So as a HR, you are seeing these problems, right? So the climax is what? Oh, a change is required. We need to do something to improve the whole system and bring a change and peace to the company. All right, what can you do? How to bring the team back together? Leadership training. We want to train the manager to be effective communicator, how to lead them together, how to give clear instruction. We want to do team building, how to make people together like Eugene and Jaden, they can work well together and understand one another. And we want to have the open door policy so that people can just go to manager and speak out their mind and what's in their idea and improve the whole situation together, right? So ultimately, roll out the program. Okay, so here you may not be resolved the whole situation, but you can fill in the resolution. What are the ultimate goal and outcome you can achieve, right? So stronger teamwork, productive environment, and greater success. So this is the story you want to sell to your management, right? It's also a little bit of selling. You want to sell this idea of having a program or cohesive activities in place in the company. You want to sell this idea to your management. That's why you want to tell story about the conflict between the employees. What are the challenges you are facing in a storytelling manner? Remember to put in emotions, right? So how depressed the employees are, how discouraged they are, what kind of feeling the employees are having, right? Then you push it to the climax. You want what kind of change as a person, as a HR, you want to propose, okay? Then you propose some have some value proposition in your idea. Okay, you can bring this in, you can introduce this, you can roll out a program, ultimately you can achieve things that you want to achieve. All right, so this is some storytelling that is an example for you to use this typical dramatic or novel writing style. Okay, so I hope that this example can give you some idea, or in your respective job scope or job in the company, how can you tell story using this structure? Of course, there are many other structures that you can use. These are some guidelines, okay? The second structure is also quite interesting, called Dan Harmon's story circle. Okay, this circle starts with the characters in a comfort zone. So all of us are in comfort zone, right? Second, but they want something. Perhaps, you know, like in Toastmaster, we want to improve our public speaking skill, overcome the fear of public speaking. There's something that we want. They enter an unfamiliar situation. We pay our membership fee. We join as a Toastmaster, right? It's unfamiliar. I don't know how should I do my icebreaker. How can I engage my mentor? How can I get help, right? Then the fourth point is adapt to it. Slowly, you started your icebreaker. Slowly, you attempted your first table topic. You attempted your first evaluation. You adapt to it and get what you want, right? So, okay, now I realize, I gain a bit of confidence in public speaking, in expressing myself and communicating, okay? Then you pay a heavy price for it. You pay heavy price instead of like effort and time that you are spending, you're throwing into this Toastmaster journey, right? How much price that you have paid, right? Not only the money, of course, you have time, you have overcome your failure. Maybe you froze on the stage. There are a lot of complicated obstacles or challenges and struggles when you face in Toastmaster. Okay, then you return to your familiar situation. What does it mean? Meaning to say you have delivered enough speeches, you're comfortable with doing that. All right, you are confident, you kind of get used to it. All right, that's you return to a familiar situation. You're familiar with whatever you are doing now. Then, change is achieved. Right, you are a better speaker, you are a confident speaker now. Okay, so if you go back to, okay, for example, you've done your icebreaker, you have done as a speaker. Now you want to go back to the circle again. Maybe you try attempt of evaluation. You want to be an evaluator. You can go through the same process again, right? Evaluation is what we want. Go into unfamiliar, started to evaluate, adapt to it, learn some structure and technique to it. Then ultimately able to deliver an evaluation. Then pay a heavy price for it. You fall down and you experience some setback. Then you go back to a familiar situation after you've done many rounds of evaluations. Then your life is changed. Okay, now you're familiar with evaluation. So this is like a learning circle. This is also a story circle. A lot of cartoons, a lot of dramas, they're also using this similar circle. Okay, so how can we apply in our workplace? Firstly, leadership. Okay, I can think of this. Of course, you have other ideas that you can throw in, or you can apply directly by yourself. It's also good. Okay. Firstly, company owner. As a company owner, right? I want to scale up my business. My company has been doing well, but I'm not achieving a good growth. So I want to scale up. So scale up is something that I want to achieve. So having trust the team and let go of certain control. So because I want to expand, I cannot hold everything to myself. I have to let go of certain of my control to my employees. Trust them, authorize them to do certain things. So this is something that I'm going to do. But I'm not familiar because I am a control freak, because I'm a company owner. I can be a control freak. I want to take charge of everything and making every single decision. So this is a struggle I have. And this is the emotion I'm having, right? So later on, I adapt to a new norm, meaning to say my managers, my subordinates are making their decisions. Okay, so the team is authorized and expanding. So ultimately, you achieve what you want. The team is expanding, right? More people, more employee, more team is bigger, growing bigger, and get more businesses and manage to serve your customer better. However, there are a lot of putting efforts to empower them and the team and nurture them. Because certain times the managers may make certain mistakes, right? Or they make mistakes, you feel you are irked, you are upset about it. But however, this is a learning and growing process for you as well as for your employees, right? So there's something that you want to put in. So everything sets in motion. Go back to a familiar situation. Now, from a smaller company, you become a medium-sized company, right? But everything going through what you have expected and what you have gone through, you have come to a familiar place. Again, then of course, things change. Now you are a medium, a successful company. All right. So by telling this story, certain times there are struggles. You can see 0.3, 0.4, and 0.5, and 0.6. There are struggles and conflicts. So by telling this story, you can use it as an inspiring story to inspire your employees not to give up when they face obstacles and challenges. Like what you have done previously, you have also sacrificed certain things. You have also let go of certain things in order to achieve a greater goal or greater good for the company, right? So inspire them a spirit of never give up, a spirit of choices, choose your own battle and choose or whatever is good for the company. Or leading them to have an idea that put the company goal in mind so that whatever they're experiencing, ultimately, they want to put company first. Okay, there can be some lesson learned from this story, right? So you tell this story to inspire your listeners or your employees. Okay, so this is the second structure that I want to introduce you today. And the last one is a very typical, world champion speech structure. Okay, but you can also apply in the at the workplace. Well, I call it three structure. Okay, the first one is setup. You want to set up what the context of it, what the character, whether it be you or someone else. Okay, you want to set the context and the background of it similar, right? Then you look at the roller coaster. The emotion going up is like a normal or going towards happy, but later on there's a struggle bring you down, right? From positive emotion go to negative emotion. You face conflict, you face obstacles. What are the challenges that you are facing and you struggle? This is when you put in a lot of negative emotions or the downside of down emotion, right? The negative emotion in it. Wow, depressed, frustrated, go into a dark hole and the void in your life. What kind of void is that? What kind of struggle? Can it be a severe accident? Can be a fight? It can be losing somebody. So these are the conflict obstacles. So what are the climax of it? So there must be some lesson learned from your story, right? So this is where you want to introduce as a climax, as a turning point and a value proposition. Okay. You want to say, you have done something differently, or somebody, a mentor, had told you certain thing that you want to adapt to it, and you apply that particular lesson, and ultimately you change, right? You change and transform. You have a solution, right? There's a solution that can help you overcome the obstacles and challenges you're facing. Then at the end, towards the end of speech, you want to have a call to action. You want to encourage the person or the audience to listen, to adapt or to absorb, as well as to apply what you have done, right? So they can copy your success as well. So this is the call to action. All right. If you look at all those world champion speeches, they also go through this. There's always a little setup. They kind of use some humor to make you laugh, to make us laugh, enjoy. Then later on, they show you what struggles they have, the conflict they have. All right. Struggle. Then later on, a mentor came in and mentor tell them, what kind of things you should be doing, right? Then the person kind of realize that he or she should be doing this. Then that's a climax and turning point. Then later on, the person has done that, resolve the conflict, resolve the thing, and become a better person, a new person. All right. Then you want to say the call to action. Hey, everybody, you should do together. Never give up, right? You should do things that I've done, right? In a nicer way. Include people, bring people in so that people can do as well. Okay? So as a sales and marketing, how can we do that? All right. For example, you want to set up, a person, maybe Jaden again. Jaden lost his job during pandemic, right? So this is set up. Okay, what kind of frustration he's having, struggles, difficult to find a job because lack of necessary skills, right? Skills that he needs. For example, IT is booming. Programmers are in high demand, but he wants to find such job, but he couldn't because he doesn't have the necessary skills. So what kind of thing can be done? Oh, Skill Future come in, pop, government came in and say, haha, come, I have these programs for you to upgrade yourself, right? Then these Skill Future credits you can use. There are some programs you can use to upgrade yourself to have a switch in your career, okay? So ultimately, solution is there. Upgrade yourself. Don't stop there. Don't feel just frustrated, but there's an opportunity and programs out there open for you to take up and to upgrade yourself so that you can find a job or you can do a career switch, right? So this as a salesperson, I'm going in, tell a story about how a person is struggling with, then I want to sell them some programs, right? Skill Future related programs. Okay, I want to sell them, then ultimately want to inspire them and motivate them to upgrade themselves. So this is some timeline that some structure that you can use as a sales and marketing. In your marketing perspective, it can be a more bigger picture, right? So in general, so this person is going through what kind of struggles have they? Then in the marketing, you want to let the people see the value Skill Future is offering, right? To upgrade themselves, to get a job that they want, and to sustain their life and go back to the normal. Okay, this is from marketing perspective. So there are many structures that we can use. So today I've introduced you 3 main structures to give you an idea. So I hope that you can take out your phone and take a picture of this so that you can use it later on, okay, in a group study. So take out a phone and take a picture of this. It's a Gustav, okay? Gustav's pyramid. So Gustav pyramid from exposition, inciting incident, climax, resolution, denouement, the outcome. Okay, take a picture of this. All right, then next we go to the circle, Dan Harmon's story circle. So there are 8 points of it. It's like a life cycle of a story, like a circle of a story. So you go through comfort zone, came out from comfort zone, what kind of struggles you have, then you return to familiar situation. Okay, this is the second structure. And the third structure is the 3S structure where there's setup, struggle, and solution. All right, setup, struggle, and solution. So all these things, don't forget to apply the other 4 fundamentals, which are to bring the audience in, what are the message and objective you want to achieve. Then you want to know your audience and you want to put in emotions. Okay, I hope all of you have learned something from me today. Say yes in the chat.